They are among Louisiana's best and brightest. They have distinguished themselves as preeminent writers, artists, and entrepreneurs. They are Louisiana Legends. The Louisiana Lottery is proud to join LPB in honoring Louisiana Legends, contributing over $3.7 billion for K-12 public education. The lottery is giving Louisiana a reason to smile.
Good evening. I'm Beth Courtney, President of Louisiana Public Broadcasting, and welcome to Louisiana Legends. I know we're going to have a wonderful conversation because in our studio we have with us a 2019 legend, RoyOMartin. Roy, welcome.
Good afternoon, Beth.
So glad you're here. But first, before I talk to you, I'd like everyone to take a look at the short biography so you might understand some of Roy's story.
RoyOMartin is a man of great character. Character is your true north. It's all that matters.
He is a brilliant leader, strong leader, very influential with people, a very compassionate heart.
RoyOMartin III is an incredible businessman who has put always the people and the community first in his dealings.
Born in Alexandria in 1960 to Roy O. and Barbara Morris Martin Jr., RoyOMartin III, early in his childhood, was clearly going to become a special person.
Roy was the youngest of 4 children in our family, and he was the only boy. And so he was very special to us from the start.
Roy's father was president of the company founded by his grandfather. As a boy, he spent many days with his father learning about the RoyOMartin Lumber Company.
I think Roy got from his father the caring and compassion that he has for other people and the community and the dedication that he's got to the employees of the company.
Roy graduated from Bolton High School in 1978. He attended LSU and the College of Engineering and was a member of Tau Beta Pi, an engineering freshman honor society. It was at college that he met the love of his life, Kathy Sue Kilpatrick, a music education student from Baton Rouge.
We met our sophomore years in college, and we have a disagreement on where we met. He says we met on the beach at spring break. I said we met at Sigma Chi Formal. But anyway, I could tell. I mean, he's high energy, he's driven.
The two married in June of 1984 and both attended the E.J. Orso College of Business, earning MBAs in 1985. It wasn't long after that the pair moved to Alexandria and had 2 children, a son Christopher in 1988 and a daughter Laura in 1990. Roy began his business career as an engineer with his family's lumber company, but then using his MBA, moved into accounting.
He is truly a unique individual that has seized the moment, if you will, both from a business standpoint and from a professional and civic standpoint, to make the most of himself and his resources in a way that is hard to overstate.
The first time I met RoyOMartin was in the late 1990s. He was my first account at JP Morgan when I was managing fixed income portfolios. 1 year later, right into our relationship, we had the Asian financial crisis. He lost a lot of money. He took it as a life teaching lesson about how to manage risk and how to deal with difficult times and how we were going to work through it together.
Accepting tough times as part of the journey, Martin continued his path to success. In 2003, he was named president of RoyOMartin Lumber Company, where he also serves to this day as CEO and CFO. From a rundown sawmill with no land in 1923 to today's 550,000 acres of timberland and 3 of the largest wood-paneled plants in North America, one can say that RoyOMartin III's legacy is truly remarkable.
One thing that's incredibly important is the development in central Louisiana that his company has made, the employment opportunities that have been made.
However, even in the hustle and bustle of his business life, he still finds time for not only family, but volunteer work as well. He also serves as a deacon at Calvary Baptist, where he has been a Sunday school teacher for over 20 years.
He's a friend to many people, and he is strong and has a growing relationship with Jesus Christ as his Savior.
He is a caring visionary who wants to better the lives of his family, his employees, and his community.
Roy also stays very active physically. He plays tennis, golf, and is an avid runner. However, at the end of the day, it's all about family for RoyOMartin and his wife, Kathy, who just welcomed their first grandson, Adam, into the world.
He is a kind, compassionate father, brother, community leader. He excels in pretty much everything he has touched or done.
He truly believes that God expects him to give back a lot because he's been so richly blessed.
So, Roy, talk to us about being in a family business. You were the third.
I'm the third.
You're the
That's
third.
correct.
3 generations, that's a long time. Is it a lot of pressure?
It's a lot of pressure on the third generation because, as you know, the old saying is shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in the third generation. Well, you know, the third generation is supposed to mess it all up. But fortunately, I think we're going to get through and hand this business off to the 4th and 5th generations before too long. So we're very excited about that. I can't imagine a world without family businesses. That's how it all started, you know, and so that's the backbone of our country. It's all small businesses, medium-sized businesses that grow into larger businesses, and it's just a great thing to be involved with that legacy that we've had for 96 years.
You have a wonderful legacy, 96 years, but you know, change is so difficult, and every day I wake up and think, I don't know how to do this new app or this new piece of technology. I mean, how do you adapt to change? Is that tough in a business?
Well, just looking at my grandfather's first sawmill back in 1923 and today's high-tech world of wood manufacturing, you have to change or you go out of business. It's something that we have spent a lot of time and money on, is making sure that we're modern in our facilities to be able to be competitive in a global market and to hand this business off to that 4th and 5th generation in great shape, ready to take on the world.
And how much have you had to actually change the products that you have?
Oh, we've gone from lumber and the newest form was in 1983, oriented strand board, and so that was a structural panel that's made out of flaking the tree instead of cutting it into lumber. And so that's a big innovation. A lot of different products have been made from oriented strand board with different coatings on the top and laminates that make it weatherproof. That's one thing. And then plywood is the old standard. That's invented over 50 years ago, and we're still making it, and we're making very premium plywoods right now that are used in many, many different things.
We talk sometimes in Louisiana about how we have a bountiful state, a state full of wonderful natural resources, but sometimes we don't do that value added to them. We just take them and then have somebody else do the value added, but you've done the value added.
Yes, we continue to try to do that and to make sure that we're very sustainable on our lands. We're Forest Stewardship Council certified, so we plant 3 to 4 million trees a year to make sure that my grandchildren will have more trees than I did. Just like my grandfather, I have more trees than my grandfather did. So that sustainability is very important to my family and to the 550,000 acres we have here in Louisiana. So we always have to value add. You're absolutely right. And cross-laminated timber construction is something that's coming from Europe to the United States, and that could really revolutionize the wood business.
Well, one of the things I was really struck by is that you're loyal, your whole employees are as a family, if you will, and you give educational scholarships. Talk to us about that.
Yes, we do. In fact, not just to the universities, but to technical and community college for any family member in Louisiana and Texas to a public institution. I think that's one of the most important benefits that we give to our families, because we've had so many first-time completers. And that is just exceptional. When we have, and that's not just in university, but in the technical and community college, because you know you always want your daughter to marry a plumber. That's because it's a fantastic job coming right out of technical school. In fact, I wish that more technical degrees would start in high school, and so those people that will not go to college, which is about 50% of graduates, will never set foot on a college campus. They can get a great job right out of either high school or maybe 1 year more.
How many of your employees do you have on scholarships right now?
Over 100.
Over 100. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and it's grown every year, and that we really push that.
You certainly have had personal involvement in the policy matters of higher education in Louisiana. You were chairman of the Board of Regents, and you spoke about the importance of postgraduate, but maybe community college or technical school training. And one of the things that I've always wondered, as you were chair of the Board of Regents, is how did we come so late to the table for community colleges in Louisiana?
Well, Beth, I can't answer that. I'm glad Mike Foster started that, I believe it was. It's so important that Louisianians have that option. It's very important to get a college degree, of course, but if you're not going to go to college, can't afford to go to college, don't have the time to go to college, or life gets in the way of your college, which happens to many, many people, it's great to have that option to get those kind of skills, because they teach such good skills in the community college and technical college areas. Also, I encourage all of our people on scholarship, our students on scholarship, get a STEM degree. Please get, science, technology.
You have to say science, technology. I always like STEAM because I like to add that art.
English is a great degree. English is a wonderful, and we support that area. We support music. My family's very musical. I'm not. I did not get blessed with that talent, so I had to marry a vocal music major. My wife is very talented.
That works.
Yeah, and it's very exciting to get involved with LSU's engineering school because we have more women graduates than ever before, more minorities than ever before.
And what would you advise the next generation? What should they be majoring in?
I'm a mechanical engineer, MBA. My wife's got her MBA. My children, my daughter was summa cum laude in architecture at LSU, and now she's a licensed architect in Tennessee. And my son's an engineer MBA working for a performance contractor. So those are winners. Those are very, very good careers. Now, that's not to say that's all you can do. Of course, business is a great degree, and like I said, English is an excellent degree. English, that's a communications thing. Computer engineering and control systems out of electrical engineering are you just write your own ticket.
Did you know that that's what you wanted to do when you went off to college?
I was very interested in engineering. I paid a lot of attention to math and sciences in high school. And not to downplay the arts and communications and English, I think that's extremely important to communicate, to have that creativity that's unleashed in your art area, and to be able to creatively solve problems. Now, when you combine those together, then you've really got some special talents.
One of the things I know troubles people sometimes as they see on a campus, and I know you spend a lot of time, you're on the LSU campus and football season and everything too, and that is, why is it that it seems that we can donate to sports and athletics, but maybe not as much to academics? That's the sense that people get.
Funny you mention that, because I've just got some statistics. Over 70% of donations to LSU were academic. 30% were sports, and I'm on both sides of that aisle. And if anybody would look at LSU campus or at Northwestern or at Louisiana Tech, LSUA, you'll see that the academic side is being pulled a good bit by sports. That's the notoriety. That's the kind of the face of LSU. But when you go out and build a new engineering school, for instance, and you raise $55 million in 1 year, that is quite an achievement. That's something that athletics hasn't been able to do that quickly. The business school raised $30 million. So in applied sciences is going to get a new building as well. The new library, a library will be built on LSU campuses. And that will be private funds. So I think people can get excited when they see that vision. And when they see the engineering school go from, 4,000 students to 6,800 students in just a matter of a few years, that's very, very exciting.
That is a great thing to hear, because we sometimes, I feel like Louisianians see so many bad things about, where we rank on lists and everything, that they become sort of pessimistic. You're an eternal optimist.
I'm very optimistic. Well, God makes you optimistic. Because that's one thing that my faith has made me is very optimistic. And unfortunately, we train too many of our best and brightest students here in the Louisiana institutions at ULL, at Louisiana Tech, at LSUA, for instance. And I see them go to Houston. I see them go to Nashville, Tennessee, and Dallas. And we've got to get more manufacturing jobs in Louisiana, and that will keep them here. Those are the high-paying jobs. Those are the jobs that will hire these great graduates here.
But why don't we have more manufacturing jobs?
Well, we have to be a business-friendly state. In a lot of ways we are, in a lot of ways we're not. Texas is kind of ahead of us right now in that respect, because I have a plant now in Texas and two in Louisiana. They do a better job at recruiting larger companies to come in. I think we need to do a better job in our state about attracting those people. Also education.
An educated workforce,
Yes.
and so focusing that time and attention on that is what's really important.
And it doesn't have to be all college graduates. It just needs to be a solid high school education. And unfortunately, some of our high schools have fallen behind. I wish that weren't the case.
You look across this country, and a lot of the rural parts of the country don't have as many people. We've lost population. What do we do to get people back in those parts of the state?
Well, unfortunately, we're not creating jobs in those rural areas. That's where we are. We're where the trees are. And so I'm in Chopin, Louisiana, Oakdale, Louisiana, and all around. We're in most of the major metropolitan areas. But the urban areas are where the jobs are, and so people are migrating. You see the Cheneyvilles and some other of our cities that are very old, but getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I wish we could go out and develop more manufacturing jobs out in these rural areas. In between New Orleans and Baton Rouge is a great example of that. There's a lot of population between there in very rural areas because of the petrochemical industry.
And everyone seems to say that that's because the price of natural gas is so low, too.
Oh, it's extremely low. That's good and bad. Investment we have is in a company called Indigo that drills natural gas wells. And they're growing great guns right now. They have 159 jobs up in DeSoto Parish.
There was a time in Louisiana where we said, all right, we don't want to be totally dependent on oil and gas. We want to develop some, high-tech, blue sky, new things. And it seems like we're back to focusing in oil and gas. Do you feel like that, sort of?
The Gulf has gone down since all of the onshore oil has been found in the Permian Basin and other places, Eagle Ford Shale. And so we're going to have to concentrate and help our oil and gas industry to refurbish, retool, and be able to produce more in Louisiana. Also, we can develop more refineries in here. That's another great thing that would produce tremendous jobs. And of course, the LNG boom around Lake Charles. That is just a game changer for that particular area. And more of those kind of jobs we can bring to Louisiana with our great natural resources. We also grow a lot of trees in Louisiana.
I remember when we were introducing you the night that you became one of our Louisiana Legends, I looked out and saw so many of your family members, and you had a great group there. What was it like for you that night?
Oh my gosh, such an honor. Especially knowing that my dad was a Louisiana Legend in 2005, seeing my wife of 35 years out there, Kathy, and Chris and Laura, my two children, and Liz Antune Martin, my daughter-in-law, and John Ollier, my son-in-law. We could not be blessed anymore. It was just fantastic.
Well, one of the things that I like is the fact that we have people from different walks of life. That's kind of fun. Did you know all the legends that night? Did you?
Oh no, not at all. I had not known them at all, and it was great to get to know them. They're phenomenal people. I felt very inadequate being on the stage with them. They're quite a group.
We always have a story that was so interesting. Early on when we were doing Louisiana Legends, we had Elizabeth Ashley, who had won a Tony on Broadway, and she's from Baton Rouge, and she was one of the legends. Another one was Judge John Minor Wisdom, a federal judge who has since passed away on us. And I remember she said to me, if she was outside and she was coming in, she said, "Now who is this Judge Wisdom?"
Yes.
And
good name for a judge.
Yeah, and I told her, and then he said to me, "Who is this Elizabeth Ashley?" And it made me realize that, sometimes we don't know the outstanding work that has been done in different fields. Yeah. And isn't that wonderful that we have the state with so many diverse people?
That's right. Thank goodness for Google. You can look them up.
We can now look
That's
them
right.
up.
But yes, we have tremendous diversity. So that makes it so much stronger.
Yes, absolutely. I look down the road for our state and for your family. What do you see the next 5 years or 10 years, if you will?
Louisiana is going to find its niche. I think we're going to attract new businesses here. We're going to be able to use our natural resources sustainably. We're going to use the river more. We have such a tremendous natural resource there. Wood products. We can develop new wood products that we can value add right here in Louisiana and ship all over the nation. And those are some of the things that RoyOMartin is working on with this 4th and 5th generation of Martins that are coming up and owning the business.
One of the things that I know, I'm a military brat, and certainly we've had a tradition of having military establishments in Louisiana. I remember Louisiana maneuvers pre-World War II around the whole Alexandria area, and certainly Fort Polk is big, and Barksdale up in Shreveport and everything. Do you think that military presence is still going to be there? Important?
Oh, I think so, because Fort Polk is very well run and one of the Joint Readiness Training Centers of Louisiana. Speaking of high tech, how about cyber security up at in Bossier Parish? That is a huge industry that Louisiana Tech has been working with Bossier Community College on hand in hand, and that was one of my greatest trips I had as a regent, was to go up there and tour those facilities and hear those stories, with great cooperation between those two college systems.
So I remember as a freshman at LSU going up and spending a holiday, because my family was overseas, at England Air Force Base.
England Air Force
now,
Base.
Now what has happened?
A-10s.
Yeah, talk to us about that a little bit.
Well, we have a great golf course there now. It's an industrial park. It's probably home to several businesses there. We have a great airport. For a town of our size, we probably have the nicest airport in the country. We have the best zoo in the country for our size, and a great airport. And that's what it's been transformed into. We have one large manufacturer, Union Tank Car, that is located there. That's a major manufacturer, as well as a few distribution centers and so forth. But it's slowly getting there. A great retirement community as well.
See, that's one of the things we think about. I mean, really, people talk about being crowded and high cost of real estate, and there's beautiful land around.
Just look at Indian Creek State Park. Mike Strain and I, Commissioner Strain and I, dedicated a new children's playground at Indian Creek State Park. It is gorgeous. If people have not gone there, they need to make that trip, because it is a beautiful area of Louisiana with beautiful lakes and large trees.
You like recreational activities. I saw in your bio you like to fish, and we were talking about your sport of choice would be tennis now.
Tennis, yeah.
And why is that?
I guess I'm a has-been competitive tennis player. 59 years old. I've lost a few steps, but yeah, it's a lifetime sport. I started young and I've kept playing all the way through. My wife is an avid tennis player as well. Still run a good bit and all that. So, I'm trying to take up golf, but it's slowly getting there.
Well, balanced life, everything in moderation, if you will. But one of the things, of course, we did notice is that you have really a strong faith, your family and your faith. And I guess I wanted to ask you, is there any particular verse that you call to mind?
Don't be anxious about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God your needs, and don't forget to thank Him for His answers, because then you will know the peace that passes understanding. And why that's so important to me is that in any kind of stressful situation, you can depend on God to take that burden from you. And that's why that's my favorite verse, besides, do unto others as you had done unto you. And by the way, I will admit, I'm not in moderation about LSU sports.
You're not?
I have no moderation whatsoever there.
I've noticed, though, that a lot of people sort of distanced from it. Our tickets are right next to the student section. And so I feel like those suites and all those that are bringing in revenue, I'm sure they are, and everything, are sort of distant. It's more like you're not actually in the nitty-gritty of the game.
I like my west side. I sit on the west side, and it's great to be there. But the suites are nice also. It's a great investment. It's a great way to talk, and people that are not totally rabid about football like I am enjoy the suites a good bit.
They enjoy that.
And we have a lot of plans to improve the fan experience at LSU as well.
Well, yes, you do. You're actually going to be serving drinks in some corners of it, I think.
That's right. And also redoing some of the areas to where they're covered, hopefully in the future, and redoing the south side to make that better and more affordable.
I know you can accomplish many things. But if you can do something about the traffic, that's something everyone in Louisiana would appreciate, I think.
I'd love contraflow.
Contraflow would be better.
I would love it.
Well, I know you're going to have a great year. I hope the Tigers do as well. It was such a pleasure being with you the night we honored you. And, your life story is one that a lot of lessons for people in Louisiana. You can succeed staying here. Hard work.
Absolutely.
And that's what we need to say to that next generation. Hard work is what it's all about too, right?
That's right. Respect your individuals. Respect people around you. have that integrity, be committed to your business, be honest in all the things you do, be excellent in all the things you do, and also be a good steward of what God gives you.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure. Enjoyed talking to you.
Great. Thank you, Beth.
For many years, LPB's Louisiana Legend series has highlighted the stories of some of our state's most outstanding individuals. We hope you will tune in for more in-depth interviews and videos, and visit us online at lpb.org/Louisiana Legends. Thank you so much for joining us.
The Louisiana Lottery is proud to join LPB in honoring the 2018 Louisiana Legends, contributing over $3.5 billion for K-12 public education. The lottery is giving Louisiana a reason to smile.
For a copy of this program, call 1-800-973-7246 or go online to www.lpb.org.